The racial superiority itself is very anti-science. But the point is, even before Aryabhatta, in Greek, Euclid had come out with insights into geometry. A river like Ganga can be venerated by millions, and now the same group of people are polluting the river. There is a problem with analyzing things rationally. We are blindly following certain models. With all this talk about great country, great civilization, all that great inventions and all that stuff, we are not considered to be a happy country. If you look at the index, happiness index, it is Finland or Bhutan.
Yeah.
In the long run, I think that will also impact the progress of science in the country.
आज इंटरनेट सिर्फ आधे अधूरे सच और पूरे झूठ में डूबा हुआ है। किसी के पास गहराई से सोचने का या शांति से सुनने का वक्त ही नहीं है। हम एक ऐसा शांत कोना बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। Nope, not your ordinary podcast for entertainment.
Nope. Like, where are we when it comes to scientific temper?
It's a question that resonates these days, about what is happening to Indian science. I mean, when you start talking about scientific temper, it must start from Jawaharlal Nehru, who has actually introduced this initially, this word. And he has a romantic mind about all this. He came from Oxford with all this, modern ideas about science and, the related issues with that. And I would call him as a Renaissance man, and he's the person who started working on this concept. And finally, I believe that, over the years, I think Pushpa Bhargava, who was a biologist and a very eminent biologist, and I think Satish Dhawan, was a space scientist, was the director of space agency for some time, and then he became a director of Indian Institute of Science. So these are the two people who started working on it again, and they were trying to form a society for this, to propagate this idea, but they failed, in that, to organize this thing. So, but Pushpa Bhargava actually went and met Nurul Hasan, was education minister at that time, I think in 70s or so. And then he was able to, motivate Nurul Hasan to introduce this in the constitution as an amendment. That is how it has come. I think it is 51A article. And that's how, the scientific temper gotten into the constitution. And it asks you to be critical about things, not to accept things, to be questioning and all that. That all related values associated with scientific temper is a particular, perspective that you gain towards the world, how you should be conducting yourself as a rational human being. So that is a background of that. And I mean, with the political leadership, those days were also talking about at least minority. I mean, some people have been talking about it that time, and even the leadership of scientific community, at least some of them were talking about it. But over the years, I find that, that concept is, slowly losing its relevance in Indian society. And now as you come to us in the modern times now, I think nobody talks about it anymore, and nobody gives any importance to it, even though it's a part of our constitution. I would say that over the years, it has lost its relevance in India for various reasons, and one is the emergence of the Hindu majoritarianism and associated belief systems and all that. So that has actually displaced the importance of scientific temper in this country.
One may argue to the fact that Hinduism as a faith is very, very diverse and has space for all sort of conversations. We do understand that this is a Hindutva-centric regime, and there's very little space for science. What do you think has changed for scientists over the last 2-3 decades?
When you look at the Hindu tradition or Hindu philosophy, as we may call it, you find Charvaga, that's a epistemological branch which questioned everything, including, the concept of God and all that, and and Lokayata, that's a school of thought. My point is that when you talk about Hindu philosophy, why none of these philosophical branches are discussed about, talked about? Because there is one aspect which I would say that, that agrees with the modern concept of scientific temper, because that allows you to, it tells you that don't accept anything at its face value. Don't accept anything unless, you keep questioning about it, you don't accept any inference at its, at its face value, and you should be questioning. Even Lokayata, as you come to this whole philosophy talks about that. I mean, that is also as important as any of other branches, in Hinduism. So when we talk about the Hinduism, as we look at the historical development and all that, these branches are never given any importance here. But if you are a Hindu or a person who believes in Hindu philosophy, one should be also talking about all the branches of Hinduism. That is one of my, my argument, why that is not given importance. So the question that you are asking is about the...
Yeah, how does this sort of a majority or majoritarian behavior, how does this set science back?
It's mostly it's sort of a chauvinistic tendencies, What people are trying is to say that, you are a sort of a superior race, you are racially superior. I mean, I wouldn't say that it is just an idea that is restricted to the society here.
Yeah.
I would say that even the Europeans had that, they call it as Western civilization.
Yeah.
So these are all, chauvinism, to say that, you are superior. I mean, scientifically, there is no validity for race, superior race, because everybody, it's proved that there is nothing like a sort of a special genes that gives you some sort of a special powers, So the whole idea of talking about this is that, you talk about Vedic science, as if, the Vedic people have certain either because of their some genetic superiority, or you have a special sort of a covenant with God or something, then you have that that power within you to come up with this things in issues, I mean thoughts that is never thought before, either in science, arts, or literature, or whatever. This is the fundamental thing. I mean, this is the problem with this kind of when you say that argument that we are superior to others, this happens to the others also. Even Japanese for some time thought that they were superior. Germans thought that they were superior. Finally, it all become a launching pad for fascism and Nazism and that kind of philosophy, which led to a world war. What I would say is that this racial superiority itself is very anti-science. There is no scientific evidence to prove that there is anybody is superior, or there is superior in terms of genes, or in brain power or whatever. There is nothing like that. The idea behind is that because we are a sort of a superior people, we had certain powers to come up with new discoveries. People say that in ancient science we had discoveries of we have discovered rockets, we have discovered surgery, we are all those kind of things. I mean, I wouldn't say that nothing had happened in the past. So many things have happened, not just in Indic science. It happened in many ancient science, like Mesopotamia, Egypt, or even in Harappan civilization, which is prior to the Vedic society, which came into being. So they were doing a lot of town planning, all that. These are all different societies in different times with their requirements. They used to respond to it. After all, human beings are curious animals. They keep on discovering something. My point is that there is nothing like there is a superior race. It's all a sort of a mixing of ideas, different exchange of ideas. When you say that, Fritz Stahl, who wrote, studied much about Vedic society, he wrote saying that, when you talk about Indic science, it's not just restricted to a place called India. It is the Eurasian continent. There are various societies, civilizations those days. So it's all interacting with each other. So, like we talk about Aryabhatta. I mean, he was an astronomer. There's no doubt about it, and he has wrote this treatise called Aryabhattacharya. All those are very important. But the point is, even before Aryabhatta, in Greek, Euclid had come out with insights into geometry. I know that whole mathematical science, one branch of geometry, is Euclid insights, which has become a foundation for modern mathematics. That happened 800 years before Aryabhatta. So I am not trying to say that Aryabhatta is a lesser, inventor or discoverer.
In a way, sciences
They all interact with each other. It's an interactive thing, even like in modern science. None of us, if you look at the papers in Nature or Science or any other major, they say 20, 30 authors, even 50 authors are there for a paper.
Yeah.
So these days, those days are also, it is all interactive. So nothing to say that, we have, when you look back, we don't say just, make a fence around our geographic place and say that, it's all happened within this. It can't happen like that. So there was Chinese, there was Indic, there was, Mesopotamian, there was Egyptian, all the sciences there, and we were all intact, even though the pace of that interaction was not as, fast as this.
What does a country which keeps slipping down in scientific temper, what does it do to its environment? What does it do to its people? What does it do to its natural resources? What do you think happens there?
The problem here is, I'll come to that point, the problem here is like, we accept all the products of science, but we don't accept the methods of science. So there's a contradiction here. Once you accept all this, you see, none of these godmen who we are talking about, this has become a big brand, many of them, they sell things. So none of them, when they have some issues of, heart or, body issues, physical problems, they go to the hospital. None of them, they go to their own dispensaries or whatever, clinics to treat themselves. They all go to the modern hospitals. So this is a fact. The point is, we want to get all these things. The problem is, we coming back to the first question, then I'll come to this. The point is, science is actually, is not just a productive agency. I mean, like you want to make things, so you use science. But here the problem is that it also gives you a perspective about a sort of a society that should be very rational in their outlook. That's not happening here. So that will impact science in the long run, because after all, the scientists who are going to do this work to come from this society.
Yeah.
But the society is not advanced in their outlook. The quality of science also will go down. So this again, my complaint is that in my own community, we think that many of them think, not all, think that you just do our science within our lab. You don't have to use science outside. That's a wrong concept, I think. Because see, science cannot can't be energized if you just restrict yourself to science. That's only to produce certain things or products. But the method is also important to develop a scientific perspective, outside the society, where science is, going to, the society is going to contribute more, into the, as personal or whatever, into the labs also later on. So I think, even for science is not restricted to lab, it's also as a concept, it needs to be propagated. That is where we are failing, and in the long run, I think that will also impact the progress of science in the country.
Yeah, but coming to the point that this sort of assertion towards, cultural identity and, not looking at things rationally, it does something to the environment, because you all of a sudden see more landslides happening, more disasters happening all around. And are those two related?
Yes. There is a book by Victor Mallet on Ganga. He actually writes about the problems, pollution about Ganga and all that. And he says that, he says that how a river like Ganga can be venerated by millions, and now the same group of people are polluting the river. and that doesn't jive, doesn't agree with, if you love something, you also need to keep that clean, right? That's not happening here. So if you look at all these festivities, rituals that are taking place these days along the banks, you see that because that is where we lack the scientific temperament. It's not just the faith that will help here. You need to have also a sense of science. What would happen to this river once you start polluting like this. And this is where the contradiction comes. That should not happen. That's precisely because we lack scientific temper.
Okay.
And then here the problem is, we are going into the river, millions of people are jumping into the water, they are, polluting the river, and we don't see, and there's so much of problems because of that, and we are not realizing that. And the problem here again is that once the agency, a scientific agency says that the river is polluted, then the political leadership says, oh, no, that should not be believed. We don't think it is polluted. If we don't accept science, and the science says that we have done experiments with the water, we have analyzed the water, and we think that, the fecal, the bacterium in this is so high that it will lead to a lot of diseases.
Let me simplify the question and ask you this. How can science help Ganga if we have to break it down?
The science, not just Ganga, there are rivers like Yamuna, there are several rivers that are polluted. But Ganga is a major river which actually being under now, the people, a lot of attention is now given to it.
Sure, science can help Ganga and Yamuna equally.
Equally. So how science can help? That's a question that we also, all of us need to ask. The point is, river is polluted because of so many things. One is industrial pollution. There are a lot of other activities that are taking place that makes it, bad. And there are also other engineering projects that are stopping the flow of the water. So we don't have a optimum flow of river flow in any of these rivers. So there are two aspects to it. One thing is, you cannot have unsustainable number of dams in its, sources where it stops the flow of the water. So that actually kills the rivers. And the second thing is the effluents, which are coming from the industries and all that. So how do we stop that? How do we cleanse that? So, it's not that we cannot do it. We have spent crores of rupees over the years, not just now. Even the beginning, before the present regime is, started, came into power. Even before that, we have been dumping money in that. That even today it is continuing. But nothing has changed much. Often there is politicians come and gives us a lot of promises, but that never materializes into any real outcome is there. So I would say that, one thing is we must stop constructing the unsustainable the constructions in the Himalayas. One thing, like we have having so many hydroelectrical projects which cannot be sustained. Even you can see that number of the destructions that are happening because of the glacial lake outburst. Starting from 2013, that is when the sequence of a lot of sequence of events have happened after that. One is that 2013 you had a glacial outburst and thousands of people were killed, and dams were under they've been destroying some of the dams. That many dams have been silted, and it also led to other issues there. Then you have this, some few years back, you had that Tapovan, Vishnugad, in Chamoli, where the dam destruction happened because of the glacial outburst. Then in Sikkim, Teesta, where we had the similar kind of event. So these are all happening in a very faster, in a sequential manner. So we must think why it is happening. We also know that why this is happening, because there is experimental and other observational evidence saying that climate is changing. There is a lot of warming up these days, and lot of intense rainfall happens because of that, and the glacial lakes are now giving away and all that. So these are all the lessons that we need to take into account. I mean, we need to understand why it is happening, why these are not sustainable, because, and that is one thing. Secondly, we are also permitting lot of pilgrims now into these areas, and that is again unsustainable because
The Char Dham, yeah.
Chardham and other areas where they have widened the road to make the people who are going there, in the motor cars and all that, make it easier for them. And in the process, despite the warnings given by various committees, expert committees, that you shouldn't be widening such roads because that leads to landslides, and which is now proved. There are a lot of incidents of landslide that has, picked up after the construction of this, after they started widening the roads. So the slopes have become very, fragile, and started, coming down. And that is also, huge amount of sediment that is getting into the riverbed, which again raise the riverbed, and that also affects the carrying capacity, the water carrying capacity of the rivers. That will also impact the dams, because the sediments are going to pile up there. That again will reduce the capacity of the dams. So all these are interrelated issues. And you have trying to make huge tunnels. You also now read news about, what's happening during the making tunnels there. So that is leading to a lot of, weaken the rock structures and rock formations, leading to more other, collapse and caving in of tunnels and all that. So here the point is, the science is very clear about it. And we all know what is behind this, why this is happening. But why doesn't the leadership take these things into account and say that, yeah, this is right. I mean, the science tells you there is a problem like this. I mean, you must at least, understand what is happening. But we keep we just close our eyes to that, and we keep on getting into this sort of adventurism just to, promote tourism and the revenues coming out of it. But in the long run, all this is going to be a huge loss.
But dams are not sustainable. This kind of road construction is not sustainable. But what are things that other countries are doing right to keep their rivers clean? And what is a cleaner source of energy, if not, this hyper dam construction method?
Yeah, this one thing is, this is supposedly going by some of the definition is a carbon neutral thing. Like the dams are considered to be carbon neutral. So that is one reason why, I mean, the countries which share Himalayas, like China, is going ahead with a lot of, there are dam projects, hydroelectric projects. I think they are the front runner in that. And possibly because that country like India is also trying to imitate the same thing. So carbon neutral is again a misnomer here, because, there is a lot of other issues involved here, because in the long run, it destabilizes the environment around you, and it destabilizes the ecology, because, that doesn't, it is not a sustainable thing in a terrain like Himalayas. So that is one of the reasons why we say that, this is not sustainable, because that is very clearly, it is, and it's also, Himalayas is one place where you expect a lot of major earthquakes. And the earthquakes also, has a, destabilizes this area and leads to a lot of landslide. Even if the dam is able to withstand the shaking, that can lead, the earthquake can lead to landslides, and that can produce more sediment and deposited in the thing, and that can lead to other issues like, when it can actually destroy the dams. Even, in 2015, the Nepal has lost about 20% of their hydroelectrical project capacity because of the landslide induced by the earthquakes. So these are the things, it's like, in Arunachal, they have, the argument is going on, China is going to build a very huge, one of the biggest dam in the other side of the border. And India is also trying to build another one. Again, when you look at the arguments between them, between India and China, you see that India is complaining that, if you have a dam on the other side, it will reduce our river flow. The same argument can be asked by the states and the countries which are in the downstream.
Yeah.
They will get reduced water. So this is a zero-sum game. You don't gain anything out of this. You say, complain to China that if you build dam, it will reduce Brahmaputra water flow. I mean, then the Bangladesh can say that it will reduce our water and you build a dam. Or
Karnataka can say that to Tamil Nadu.
And Assam can say to Arunachal that if you build a dam there, you will reduce my water here. So this is like a zero-sum game. So nobody wins in this. So what I would advise is, you put a stop to all the construction, like, engineering construction in the name of building dams or, widening the roads or, tunneling and all that. Requires to be stopped now and just take a look at it again with a, more critical way and see, whether this is a sustainable thing or not.
We as a country, we have taken that, okay, highway, road, toll, connectivity, development. You cannot take that out of people's minds. But railway is a much better way if we put the same amount of money on our railways or on public transport or creating something more sustainable. It's far better for the people, but it is not going into people's minds. They think they don't have money for the fuel, everything is getting expensive. Diesel, petrol is an all-time high, but everybody seems to be happy when there's a 8-lane highway.
Yes.
And why is that? We are not being able to deal with it. And that brings us back to the first question, is it scientific temper?
There is a problem with, analyzing things rationally. We are blindly following certain models. Over the years, it started with Galbraith talking about the capitalism, and things are going on like that till people are just copying this model. Actually what we need is to have there is time already. We reached to say, there needs to be a paradigm shift in our outlook. Even though it is going to be very painful in the short run, might take time. It requires that, we need to have a relook at our models of so-called development. That needs to be discussed, irrespective of, the political ideology and all that. We need to see, whether, the point here is, it's thing that we see all around the world, including India, that inequality is increasing. The prosperity is restricted to certain elites who are, very few number, which is the wealth is being, sort of coming and accumulating with certain people. And majority of the people are just, moving around without much of hope in their life. What kind of welfare model that we are looking at? That's the thing. I mean, the point is, with all this talk about great country, great civilization, all that great inventions and all that stuff, we are not considered to be a happy country. If you look at the index, happiness index, it is Finland or, Bhutan.
Yeah.
So it's not India. Yeah. So why that is so? I mean, despite the fact that, we say that, we are one of those world leaders and we have, in terms of philosophy, we are the front, ranking country in terms of, even for the last 5,000, 6,000 years, we have been contributing to civilization. Why people are not happy? Is they are ranked below, some of the countries like, I think
even Palestine.
Yeah,
Palestine. We're below Palestine and Ukraine also. I think currently
they're all water countries. Even they are happier than us. Yeah. I mean, that's a question that we need to ask ourselves. The leaders, so-called people who are leading the country should also ask. Despite this talking about we are going to the moon, we are doing this, we are doing that. I mean, it is fine. But why? Why majority of the people are unhappy? So there is a fundamental problem that we need to look at and see what it is and try to come up with some solutions.
So when you spoke about going to the moon, what do you think India's space exploration currently, where are we at, and what do you think ISRO, and I mean we did speak about how it all started, but where is ISRO right now compared to how the world is exploring space, and what is our mission on exploring space further.
Good things and bad things. One is, the space science is that, the satellite technology has helped us a lot in observation of Earth processes, and that has helped us in prediction, even in climate research or environment and all that, and even natural hazards, like disasters. We are able to now able to see it from the top and, able to measure things in a more scientific way, and that might help us in some predictive or help our predictive capabilities. But there are also other, the point here is, what should be your priority, So if you look at the priority, I would say that, you have this International Space Station, that is actually a consortium of countries that are, so far, I don't know what will happen tomorrow, but so far it's a consortium that is running that. It is not one single country that is financing it. So my point is, the space exploration, for whatever is worth is, it needs to be an international effort. It should not be one country or another country just doing it themselves. That is what that's what I think. And it's not, there are people like leaders of science who have said that. Weinberg, the physicist Weinberg, who got a Nobel Prize for that, he was against, human exploration of planets, like Mars or Moon. What he said was, why can't you send robots? Why do you send, have to send humans, if at all you need to do that? So there are questions, there are people asking set questions, but the problem here is, you're using it as a sort of to show that you're capable of doing it. It is a techno-nationalism, you would say.
Yeah, it's a show of strength.
Show your strength. That is where we sort of differ in our outlook. So when you come to this, if China is doing it, then China will say that we have done it, or Japan, or other countries. It's like winning a cricket match. Then people become very jubilant. Nationally, you become very triumphant, that you have done this. But that is not should be the target. The target is like what I always think that, I wouldn't say that ISRO as a space agency has done a lot of work. I wouldn't say that they're bad. They are very good. Starting from, sort of, very small beginning, they grew. But my point is, there has to be priorities, that needs to be fixed first. We should be sending people to moon. Do we really need to do that? I don't know. One thing, as I've said before, it should be an international effort, including everybody.
Yeah, if 200 countries pool their resources
together and do it.
Yeah, it's a victory for science instead of a victory for India, America, China.
Yeah. So why you repeat, all the countries are repeating the same thing. Everybody, one country, US is sending a spacecraft to the moon to know whether there is water in the polar regions. Yeah. India is also doing the same thing. Europe also doing the same. Why you keep on repeating the same thing? Why can't you just combine and, use all your efforts and do it? Yeah. If at all you want to know.
If one finds water, I think it's enough.
Enough.
Yeah. But they are, it's a tricky time because the amount of construction that is happening in every city, every part of the country, because it's just like, this whole country or the planet itself needs a sort of detox where things need to stop.
Sure.
And we are on to a Botox.
Yes. True.
Like build the highway, put the light, make sure it's all steady.
Especially when you have the problems like climate change. Yeah. It is actually an existential problem for the human race. Mm-hmm. Here, we are, mad race to compete with each other in all this, unwanted things, like constructions and, road construction, all that kind of thing that is going on, which needs to, decelerate. You need to put a brake to it and think what is going to be the impact of all this.
Yeah.
Put your mind together, and come together rather than fighting with each other.
That's true. And whenever people say this thing that, but there is a huge community in science that denies climate change. I'm like, okay, fine, but they sure do not endorse 8-lane highways. They still don't endorse you to break, mountains. They still don't endorse your tunnels.
True.
They still don't endorse the way you are exploring into finding more and more coal. They do not endorse this. If they are not,
Yeah, there are things that excite us, as a person who looks at future, the consequence of what we are doing here, and what is a way out. That is what we need to think now, because we have reached a tipping point. So the point is, there are experiments that is going on in the world about fusion energy. Like fusion is something, if you are successfully able to do that, to generate power energy, then that is going to change all our problems. Maybe that will going to happen, I don't know. But the way things are reported from some of the labs, it just looks promising. The fusion is the kind of process that is taking place in the sun. So if the similar thing happens, then we don't have to worry about nuclear waste. It's a kind of a self-sustaining thing. So if and because we are using hydrogen atom, we can get it from the seawater, to fuse this different atoms and generate energy. So that is something there. Then again, about cultured meat, there's something which I am excited, because you don't have to kill animals to get your proteins, which is again, I mean there is nothing like, these are all, when you talk about animal meat, it's a part of your food culture, like that.
you have to replace it.
Yeah, because the people who are living in the mountains cannot live without meat. There is nothing else. You don't have any plants there. So what do you can go? We don't go to tribes or people who are living in the mountains to eat plants. Then they'll ask you, where are the plants? So these are all part of the systems in which you are living, in the ecosystems you are living, environment you are living. So so that is what our eating habits are. The problem with this animal, the meat, is that the cattle actually releases a lot of methane to the atmosphere. So how do we bring that down? So there are experiments that are taking place in some labs about how to make artificial meat using stem cells, and culturing them, producing meat, flesh that is good source of protein. So that's the kind of things that are happening around. I mean, so I would say that I am pessimistic in some ways, but I am also optimistic in some other ways when I see the certain things are happening.
But there's a huge industry, like for a country like India, where our cow is milked. Like milk is a huge part of our culture and lifestyle. Even if we get the meat, I don't know if we'll ever switch from our vegetarianism is very harmful to the planet.
True.
If you see, because of the kind of milk, ghee, the constant paneer. So all of these things are like, and we are not willing to accept that vegetarianism is also a burden on.
Equally, like this. I mean, it also is lot demanding.
Yeah.
In terms of resources.
Another thing I want to ask you is, like, every time we see in the newspaper that there is a village or there is a kind of area which is not very close to the city, but it is protesting a coal mine. They are usually the tribals and the people of that land. What does science have to say about coal mines, and why we don't see science or scientists or enthusiasts of rationality come and defend these movements? Like you said earlier, they just, I think once they come out of the lab, they're no more a scientist.
So that's one reason. The other thing, I mean, that is again,
like, what do coal mines do to an area?
See, the question about scientists, like any writer or artist, they also have a social responsibility to see things are different outside. Like if you are a good scientist, you are a person who need to go out sometimes and talk to people about it. That's one thing. But again, coming to this coal mining, I mean, again, or the indigenous people, who are the tribal people who are living in that area, most of the time come out and protest against it. And the reason is that that fundamentally reduces their land availability and their other resources and their farming activities and displacement. This is equally applicable to a dam also, in many parts. Like I had seen a few weeks ago, a documentary called "The Voices of Teesta," made by the indigenous community in Sikkim. This is a beautifully done movie which talks about the protests, starting from 2007, with this against the same dam which was actually devastated during this glacial melt outburst. 2007 onwards, they were protesting that they should not be constructed here.
And 2013,
Yeah.
people lost their life.
Yeah. So so this is how it happens. So this is same thing applies to the people in Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh or the central Indian regions where they are protesting against leasing out land to people who wants to do mining there. So that is one reason. So the point is again, we have actually even agreed in international forums that we would be withdrawing from coal, generated coal-based plants generating. That is why we are mining coal. So we would withdraw from it, and there is also a time a target that is given when you should
2030 or something.
to around that time. So it's already 2025. You think that in 5 years' time you are going to withdraw from it? Definitely not. So
Another thing I want to ask you is like, has the media, what have they done in the last 11 years? Because there have been certain cases where the media has projected false news about a coal shortage to give more coal mines to a specific company. So what do you think the role of, as a scientist, what do you feel about the media of today?
we are living in a very different times. I remember, during times of emergency when I was a college student, I mean, the media used to be very, come out openly about, what's happening around. And, they used to protest, they used to write editorials. So when the same, situation develops in a different way now, media is mostly silent, and there is nothing, the mainstream media, except a few exceptions. There are exceptions. I mean, we need to,
we need
give
to
credit to them, for standing up in a difficult time. So I think that is a trend of the time. Everybody is falling in line, and they are happy about it. So I like individuals. The companies also fall in line, who are running the show, running the journals and newspapers. So yeah, the times that tells you why it's happening like that.
So then what about this festivity, about the Mahakumbh and the reports that come from the Ganga and it being polluted? What can it do to an individual's health? And where do you see it as a health risk?
I think there is a, going by the reports of the Central Pollution Control Board, things are looking messy. I mean, it looks very bad. If you look at the quality of Ganga water, I mean, they have taken the water samples from all these places where people have been taking bath and all that and doing rituals. So it's not a rosy picture, it's not at all. I mean, that is what we get, when the ideas that we get out of, while you read that report. So they say that, then there is also a sort of a talk from the other side of the fence saying that, there is, the Ganga can purify by itself. It is a holy river and it can purify itself. Only Ganga river has that quality. If you compare with other rivers, world rivers, only Ganga has that quality. Yeah. So it is scientifically such a stupid statement, because there is it cannot stand any scrutiny, scientific scrutiny, because they even say that there are one of the reports said, press report, or I don't know whether it is an expert who said that, there is about 1100 bacteriophage. Bacteriophage is a antibacteria kind of a thing, I don't know where they got this particular number. I mean, it has never been. The point here is,
even if it's 1/10 of it, what does it do to the body?
That you see, the point is, that bacteriophage is a natural presence in all the rivers and even in our gut. When you have a bacterial infection, this bacteria can fight it, and that is how the interaction happens. They actually go into the bacteria and they started splitting up, and they will kill that bacteria by splitting and all that. The kind of interpretation that is going on here is that they are like a Bollywood hero. They just come, because it is Ganga, they come and fight the bacteria and disappear. It's a kind of a thing, which they do as a service. And especially, it is only seen in Ganga. I mean, it's all, stupid statements. There is no science to back those kind of statements. So that's where we come, when you say scientific temper, that is where we require science. There are millions of people who believe that, that only Ganga has that property, which is wrong.
And there are millions of people who know that this is wrong and they don't say it.
They don't say a word. They keep quiet. So that is our, tells you, about the country and the society that we are living in. See, when Central Pollution Control Board published this report, the National Green Tribunal took it very seriously, and they wanted some answers, from the authorities. But I think, recently I didn't go very deep into that because these things keep happening all the time. Because in the parliament there was a question by one of those members, and the minister concerned said that that is after initial publication of Central Control Board, then after a month or so, the parliament, when the question was raised, the minister said that, no, the this Central Control Board has actually come up with a new report saying that you don't have to worry about it, So that is very funny. So I don't know. See, the minister said, I did not see that second report if they have published a report. But what minister said is this, that, if you look at statistically, looking at all the observations, I think that it is quite okay for a person to go and take a bath. That is no problem. I mean, they didn't get into the drinking part of it. So initially the report said that you can't even you can't even go into the water because that will give you a lot of, make you a sick person. So this is how they change the interpretation, even from the agencies, the central, the people's science agencies who are doing this, also, change their stance afterwards. And the point here is, again, in science, when you write a paper or a report, it also goes to a peer review. See, when I write a paper or even a report, nobody accepts that. It is sent to a peer review, and the peer reviews might say that there are a lot of objections to it, what you have said. You fix that first, then we will see again. That applies to any scientific report, whether it is Archaeological Survey of India, whether it is a Central Pollution Control Board report, or any report. The problem here is nobody was bothered about it. I mean, like if ASI submit a report on some site which is dug up and say that you have found out something, to whatever they have found out, that is accepted. Even in the court, it is accepted. Has it gone to a peer review?
No.
Any science, they say that, it is subject to falsification. Nobody believes that. You say that you did something. That's why, hundreds of papers are retracted from scientific journals, including Nature. Finally, somebody will say it's all wrong. They will prove it is wrong. So it is retracted. So the point here is, like any report from any scientific agency cannot be accepted in one go. It has to be, when ASI say that we have found out all this, then the ASI report, the court or, whoever is looking at it should send to a group of peers and say whether they are saying right or wrong. Here that practice is not existing. So when Central Pollution Control Board says that, you have found out it's all polluted, after a month they say that don't worry, it is not polluted. What is this? I mean, who has reviewed this? And how do you accept this? And even the person who raised the question in the parliament, I don't know who raised it, whether it is opposition or whatever, it's not asking that question. How do you change the stand? I mean, who has reviewed this?
Another thing, the last thing I want to ask you on the show is that how have other countries around the world managed to keep the river bed flowing and clean and even for people to go in. How have they managed to do it? Because it was never, industrial waste it's a massive world issue. We can't fix it by just anti-dumping duty.
One, I think the good example is Thames in England. If you look at the 18th, the 19th century and all that, the same situation prevailed there, like what happened to Ganga now.
Yeah.
It's happening, that was there in about Thames, the same situation existed. Hugely polluted. I mean, I think even, one of those writings, I don't remember where it is, even Karl Marx, because he was living there.
Yeah.
He wrote about it. Somewhere, passing through, about terms, how it is polluted, why it is polluted, because the environment is bad. That even he came to that conclusion. You are sending effluents to do it, that's why it is polluted. So it's something which can learn, how they did that, how they stopped effluents flowing into this, and also see, let's see how many dams are there which stops the flow of Thames in Britain.
Yep. Thank you so much for your time, sir. This was great talking to you. Thank you. Okay.
Nope.